In this screencast, I will introduce Chapter 2 for Critical Web Design by Eckstein Burrow and Owen Mundy, and speak directly to students enrolled in Internet Studio 1. When we're thinking about design, whether it's designing for the web or designing for really anything, the primary goal is to organize and communicate information. When you modify the format or arrangement of text while sending an email or even just composing a sentence, you are attempting to remedy design problems which prevent others from understanding the full meaning of your text. These actions or design decisions are improvements we make every day to balance consistency between content, intended meaning, and current presentation choices. Here you can see I did a quick search for phrases that mean different things depending on how they're presented. And in these various cases of I didn't say you stole my money, depending on which word is italicized, the implication or the meaning shifts. So this is a very kind of simple way of looking at a possible design problem that can be anticipated and a design decision that can be used to solve that problem. In Chapter 2, what we're asking the reader and the maker to do is to notice two things at once. This chapter is about understanding that we are looking at the design and visual components of content displayed in the web browser and the seemingly invisible code used in its construction. When you view the source of a web page, you examine the parts of the design that many people overlook. Viewing the source of a web page is kind of like looking under the hood of a car to see how it works. Critical web designers look beyond what sits at the surface and investigate not just what is presented, but how it has come to be. In short, viewing the source is a way to think about the world, to be engaged with everything going on from the shiny surface to the systems and technology that make everything work. Every part of it affects our culture. With this in mind, we kind of hearken back to not just the early days of the web, but an important time culturally, scientifically, experimentally, when we were thinking about information. In particular, the idea of free information and the idea of kind of DIY ethos. So here you can see the NewYorkTimes.com. If you view source and look in their code, if you look in the developer's console, for instance, you'll see an ASCII art image of the NYT logo and a job link. That's really only viewed with developer features found across all web browsers, but they're putting this in front of people who already are looking at the code. And that's a kind of savvy way of putting out a call. This is a way of getting the attention of the people who they're looking for, which is the people who want to know how these things are made. The slang term hacker can be traced back to the 1959 tech model Railroad Club at MIT, led by Peter Sampson. We're going to fast forward a little bit to 1983 when Stewart Brand received $1.3 million to create a software catalog, thus redistributing his 1968 printed The Whole Earth catalog for networked readers. This catalog, also a relic of the counterculture, offered advice, diagrams, and resources for participants and communards of the Back to the Land movement. These three pioneers relied on concepts of free that include no cost, distribution, and the ability to take and modify something for your own needs. The principle of the sort of hacker ethics include things like access, a do-it-yourself approach, free information, and more. These concepts are referred to in the free software movement as free as in beer, which means free to use and distribute, and also free as in speech, for which you have a legal right. So there's a difference between sharing a beer with your friend and actually having a legal right to free speech. The ability to view the source code of web pages underscores these freedoms. View source is made possible by the idea and the licensing referred to as open source. Richard Stallman urged anyone working with code to join the free software movement. And the 4 freedoms include the freedom to run the code, to change the code, to make and distribute exact copies, and to make modified versions and then give or sell them as you wish. I won't play this video of Richard Stallman giving a speech about the free software movement, but I encourage you to take a little bit of time and view that. In the book, we include this photograph of My Dead Kennedys blank B-side on their 1981 tape In God We Trust Incorporated. And you can see that on the B-side, the Dead Kennedys left a note that says, Side 2, home taping is killing record industry profits. We left this side blank so you can help. The Dead Kennedys blank B-side encouraged sharing and distribution before the rise of Napster and other digital file sharing websites. It also demonstrates an alignment between the values of punk, hacking, and the free software movement. Now, in opposition to all this free software view source concepts, things that we're relying on in order to learn in our classroom, there is also a sort of alternative way, which is called the black box. Closed source describes software that, unless you have privileged access, is created with code that you cannot see or alter. There are many examples of this, some of which may be familiar to you, like desktop software such as Adobe and its products, or Microsoft and its products, platforms like Facebook or Meta, Google and their various platforms and their search engine, or firmware, code that is embedded on and enables device hardware, like that on a Tesla vehicle, or a smart TV, or your phone. The source code that makes up these software and their internal logic are proprietary. They're shielded from examination or scrutiny, and when you look at such closed source systems, the view of their internal workings is opaque, a technological black box where the functions, except for their inputs and outputs, are hidden from public view. Here I have embedded an image of Abbie Hoffman holding his copy of the book that he wrote, Steal This Book, which is a list of resources for people to find all kinds of free and sort of gift economy material things. And in front of Abbie Hoffman is literally a black box with some of the logos from some of the types of companies who are definitely not encouraging for you to steal their books. So view source, open source, sharing, distribution, the sort of ethics of do-it-yourself. These are the kind of core ideas presented in the content section of Chapter 2. The case study is the art collective called Mischief, and I'll read a little bit of their case study to you. Founded in 2019, Mischief is an American art collective based in Brooklyn, New York. Mischief's output is aggressively medium agnostic and deliberately difficult to define, spanning shoes, chat platforms, gun buyback programs, and so much more. Their work accelerates the aberrations of 21st century capitalism by laying bare 20th century cultural tropes, Duchampian humor. Medium is the message, guerrilla marketing, interactive performance art, and celebrity culture. Mischief's work forces viewers to reconsider the context in which art can exist and weaponizes its pop appeal in its own corporate existence to drive its critical practice into mainstream spaces. We chose Mischief because Owen and I are really, I think both of us kind of impressed by and like maybe baffled by or just bewildered by how this collective so kind of delicately balances a practice that is and really rooted in the sort of fine art world and also the commercial world. And then there are these pieces and games and projects and products that Mischief makes that just cross those boundaries in a really kind of slick way. So we'll look at a few of their works. Uh, the one that's highlighted in the book is called The Free Movie. And so I'll read you this second part of their case study, or another part of their case study. Much of Mischief's work radically alters the original intent and significance of objects, from defacing famous artworks to wholesale appropriating Nike sneakers. Mischief views cultural elements, a brand, a logo, an artist, as building blocks to construct our work in a radical expansion of sampling, remix, satire-based artistic creation. There is a dramatic disconnect between art historical attitudes towards such appropriation, like, hasn't this been normalized since at least Warhol, and the state of copyright law. Since Mischief started in 2019, a series of court cases have progressively shut down and restricted such use, especially where artistic use of corporate-held copyright is concerned. Projects like the Free Movie, in which the crowd-sourced hand redrawing on B Movie becomes an extended metaphor for media passing into broad cultural ownership and taking on new meaning, hold special significance for us in light of the stakes for this larger mode of working. And this is a still from the Free Movie that I contributed as we were looking at Mischief's work and thinking about which piece we might highlight here in the text. I'm going to pause before I talk about this and just hop on over to some of the sort of Mischief projects. This is currently what their website looks like, what their homepage looks like. And so it's a listing of projects, lots of different projects. You can go and click and look at all these different things that they've done. Then there's a section called Applied Mischief, where they basically just have a call out to commercial ventures. Like, if you would like to work with us, contact us here. They have this kind of interesting project that I have pulled up and we'll look at in a minute, looking at products that are these hybrid products made along the global supply chain, and then a book that they have released called Made by Mischief. So just a few things that I pulled up from all these different projects. I won't click into this and hear all the screams, but one of them is Scream Club, and it is pretty much exactly what you imagine it's going to be. It's a website where you can scream with others across the internet. You can hear the screams of others, and they can hear yours. So if you feel like screaming into the void, this is here's your opportunity, screamclub.club. I've also pulled up cookies.com. I don't know. You have to say it with some enthusiasm. Cookies. Cookies is a game. The game is over, but you can still count your cookies. And basically, this is a browser plugin that Mischief made that runs a game where they track how many browser cookies you've accepted. You race to accept as many browser cookies as you possibly can, and then the winner wins 100 pounds of really real, we swear, cookies. And you can see that this game concluded on May 3rd of 2021, where the user named Whelp won 100 pounds of chocolate chip cookies. What a sort of fun and playful way to have people recognize all the various ways that their information is being saved in internet, web browser, web cookies, in the browser cookies, and possibly used for all kinds of other nefarious things. This is the Global Supply Chain Telephone game, and this has been bugging me, and it's going to bug me all the way until the end of the video, so I might as well move that over. You can read here. First, we asked a factory in Peru to knock off a Birkin bag. It looked like this. Actually, this is the Birkin bag. It looked like this. Okay, that's the first prototype. Next, we told a factory in Portugal to mash it up with a Celine bag, and they made this. Then we had a factory in India combine it with a Dior bag. It came out like this. Finally, we asked a factory in China to merge it with a Balenciaga. You guys, I'm not going to say that right. Balenciaga? This is how much I am fashion unaware. Bag. The end result is this. And so this is a project that just kind of beautifully crosses that line between playful kind of artist project, art idea of making a knockoff and then a mashup and sort of remixing fashion, and kind of critical commentary by working with different factories all over the globe, kind of pointing to this global industrialism. And then at the end of the day, selling those pieces for, I don't know, relatively high-end-ish prices. And that pieces that are at this point probably sold out. You have to join a waiting list. So here we have a work of art that makes critical commentary, critical cultural commentary, and then like crosses the border and then becomes commerce itself. I wanted to throw in one extra project, one of my own for you because you're my student. So I'll show you something that I've made that's does not do any of that cross commerce business, but is in some ways commenting on the sort of freedom of the web, or remixing and using elements from the real world as a part of a methodology in a sort of open source and free way. So this is a little project that I did way back, I think in 2012 or 2012, I think. I didn't write here the day that I did this. I should have. And it's called On the Web. It is a translation of Jack Kerouac's On the Road. Some of that kind of hacker ethics and whole earth catalog is rooted in the counterculture, and the counterculture kind of poetically aligns with the beat poets, of whom Jack Kerouac was one. And so I guess there's a connection as well with that. And when Kerouac wrote his book, or I should say after he penned his book, he typed it on a typewriter in a manic kind of 3-day spree, taping each sheet of paper together as he went and making ultimately a scroll. And that scroll, the scroll for this kind of classic work, American road novel, often goes on tour in galleries or libraries. People like to see that sort of artifact of Kerouac's work. So I was interested in thinking about this book On the Road, and like, what if every time the word road came up, you read it as on the web, because we scroll on the web, and he made this scroll, and I just kind of saw these parallels. And so I took a summer to reread this book. I've read it several times, and every time I came upon the word road, I crossed it out and wrote web, just to kind of see how it would read. And when I was done, I scanned every page of the book, and then I created this website where each page appears to be taped together. And you can see they're kind of individual pages, and it's a little hard to pick up the tape pieces, but there's one. And they just appear taped together by these little tape pieces. It's the same tape piece over and over that tapes together these pages. It's the complete book, the whole book taped together, scrolling on the web, and sort of remade. The last little tweak is that if you encounter the word web, you can click it, and it will bring you to the next time that the words web appear. So you can kind of just click through. This word road appeared a lot of times in the book. I don't remember right now how many times, but I want to say it's like more than 100 times the word road appears in the book. So, am I infringing on copyright law? Probably. Probably you're not supposed to put every single page of On the Web on a website. Have I transformed the original work? I would say I have significantly transformed On the Road. Am I making any money off of this? No, I am not. And do I defame Kerouac? In other words, does he make any less money for the fact that this is here? I don't think so. So in thinking about the sort of copyright status, I would argue that the fair use doctrine is going to hold up for me, would likely hold up for me, should someone decide that they wanted to send me a takedown notice for this project. Okay, those are just a few ideas about open source, free culture, a little bit of fair use thrown in there just for fun. Let's go back to here. I'm almost finished talking to you a little bit about this week's agenda and context and what we're set to do. In preparation for the prompts in Chapter 2, Um, you will do a few things. You'll view works of concrete poetry, because in chapter 2, you'll make a work of concrete poetry. And I'm actually going to forward and come back in a second. So you're going to make a manifesto that is made with expressive typography. So you will choose a manifesto, and I'll give you, for students in my class, I'll give you on our on Teams series of links that you could follow. There's some links to manifestos included in the chapter that readers of the book could follow. This is the kind of final piece that is made by following the prompts in modules 1, 2, and 3. But the final prompt is to go ahead and make your own manifesto. So you can follow all along and make this specific page, the Think Different page, and then when you're done, you may choose your own your own manifesto and display it as a work of concrete poetry. So we're kind of mixing a couple of ideas. We're pulling text from a manifesto and then we're displaying them expressively. And so looking at concrete poetry is very helpful for thinking about expressive typography that kind of speaks to an idea. I'm also asking my students to read Laurel Schwartz's My Website is a Shifting House Next to a River of Knowledge. What could yours be? And this essay is so lovely, and it really helps people, I think, people who are new to building websites and making works of art for the web, to think about why we make websites and why it's important to be the architect of a website of your own, and to kind of give you a little bit of a framework for thinking about that. So please follow the exercises in and actually all across chapter 2 of module 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. You'll be learning new HTML tags and some internal CSS styles. Just remind you can revisit the exercises in chapter 1 for any assistance you might need with creating a new repo, enabling GitHub pages, and editing in code spaces. And then one last reminder that when you are working on the project to make this page, you can always look on the repo. So I would click there, but I know I have it already pulled up here. So this is the book repo. But also for students in my class, these links are all on our in Teams for us. And the book repo itself, if you look in chapter 2, you can see the final kind of code for each section of chapter 2. So module 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. And so if you look at the kind of last file there in 2.3, you see that's the final file that kind of creates the code for that Think Different manifesto page.